welcome Lorne Christensen to give us the talk this evening.
For 2 months basic training. And then after that, camp board, 4 months trade training. Imagine, I don't think I was ever that young. However, as these we got wiser and more experienced, as you can tell, that was 2 months later. And then on the camp board, oh, Jesus, we're allowed to drink beer and everything. Legally, just like real adults. Fortunately, I don't have the picture of the next phase of adulthood, because that came 8 years later. The first time I ever graduated. I actually passed something. So I was pretty happy about that. I'm proud of myself, actually. After we finished that, we all got transferred to different places, and I was sent to, transferred to North Bay. And it was a nice station, but fairly new. So we were all excited about joining the squadron and starting our legendary careers as squadron heroes or something. Well, when we got there, we found out that the training squadron that was there was moving to Cold Lake, and there was no airplanes. So we were assigned general duties, janitors, etc. So I worked at I was sent to the central warehouse, and we supplied the messes with liquor and supplies. First time I ever got in the office mess. Second time I got in the office mess was several years later in Cold Lake, and I was sent there to peel potatoes. But that's another story. We got transferred suddenly we were going to be sent to temporary duty to the Arctic. Wow, that was exciting. What were we going to do there? Well, we were going to unload ships. There was a ship from Vancouver sailing to the Arctic full of avgas, 45-gallon drums. So we were sent to Cambridge Bay. We went by train, 30 of us, from different bases. We met in Ottawa, got in the train and went to Edmonton. Now you would have thought that we would have been staying at the barrack blocks in the Mayo, the Air Force base there. We thought that's where we were going. But no, actually we went to the McDonald Hotel. Barrack block living with room service. I loved it. We were there for a week.
Yeah.
So obviously the Air Force didn't plan that. It must have been the Army.
You're welcome, Laura.
So anyway, so we waited, and we were wondering, why are we waiting here? What's going on? Finally, we kept asking the officer. He said, well, we're waiting for 2 DC-3s to fly out from Ottawa. Pardon me? Didn't we just come from Ottawa? And that's what we were doing, waiting for 2 DC-3s to come out. It must have been Army planning. And so finally we got up there, and we had to borrow a power wagon on a high-boat trailer, because we were living in the DOT Quonset hut over by the tower on the other side of the harbor. You know where that is? Big tower there? Jack knows where that is. But the contractor it was a Navy contractor, a U.S. Navy contractor, wanted his unit back. The officer kept signaling Ottawa to send us the vehicle. Nothing came. Finally, we got word that the airplane's coming in, so we all go to the airport, thinking that C-119 would come in with a power wagon and stuff. It was a DC-3. It had a Jeep and 30 pup tents. So we all said, we're not doing that, so the contractor let us keep the power wagon. So as we got up there, finally got the DC-3 there, my friend the Husky Pup. And there's the ship. There's the drums. We had manhandled every one of them. But before that picture was taken, we woke up one morning and the harbor was full of Navy ships, U.S. Navy ships, LSDs and amphibious stuff. And they unloaded the entire supplies to build the Turbulence station complete, including the hangar. And they were unloaded and gone in 48 hours. We were still looking for it. I got it. Anyway, we finally got out of there, and they didn't even send an airplane for us. Let me talk about this because it has a significant historical point from my future flying career in the new line. So we were at the airport, and the officer was talking to the contractor, and he said, well, we got a C-46 coming up here. If you guys want to hitch your ride on it. There's no seats, but they get seats and everything. So we all got on first. There's no seats. Freight, cargo, just sat around wherever we could. With a down nice, and then stayed there 12 hours. They put the seats there and went down, and finally back to Ottawa. So that was my other excursion. First entry onto the new line. Right after that, I got transferred upwards, Ottawa. And I have to talk about this a little bit because it was such a slovenly place. Old, sloppy looking, no upgrades to it whatsoever. It was depressing, low morale. Everything about the place was depressing until a new commanding officer took over. What a difference a leader would make. Actually, we never had parades before he got there. The CO that was there wasn't interested, I guess. We were always in the basement. And we used to have these war games alerts, and we always lost up until now. Because nobody cared. And all of a sudden we saw him hanging around the canteen. A guy in a suit would come in there, have a few beers, watch the shenanigans, and beer balls flying around. He'd go, come back maybe a few days later. Thank God we didn't see him in the hangar line 3 o'clock in the morning too. Nobody ever questioned him. Nobody ever asked for his ID or anything. Well, believe me, when he took over, he had lots to say about that. He was the new SEAL group captain, Cam Lascelles. He started having regular parades, and he brought the training command band up from Trenton. After a couple of those, we were stepping out, pride was improved, morale was improved, pride was improved. But before that, I got to know him, actually, before all that. And shortly after he came to the base, that's not necessarily a good thing. But my buddy, Bob Goche, was promoted to corporal. We have a corporal's night celebration on April 1st, and everybody goes to corporal's club. The officers, the CO, all come in, congratulate everybody. Excuse me. So as the CO came in, one of our guys, Jack, pretty loaded, he immediately attacked the CO and started lecturing him. So a bunch opened the holes in his chest and all this shit. Very good, smart movement. So the CO ordered all of us to get him back to barracks, which he tried to do, and we did do. So I thought we were dodging a bullet. Monday morning, I thought, we got word that we had to go in front of the CO. Oh, Jesus. I'm thinking, Christ, the guy's only been here for 2 weeks, and I'm already in shit. So we go in front of him, no charges laid, that's his style. But the Bob Goche I'm talking about was the same Bob Goche that years later started Buffalo Airways in Fort Smith, and later sold it to my friend Joe Bryan, Buffalo Joe. Small world, eh? So by now the new CO is having regular parades, et cetera, as I said. And everybody was stepping up for that. Now he was going to concentrate on the station alerts to get everybody to participate more fully. And he did. If we were out in the line at 3 in the morning, so was he. And the other thing he did was, prior to him, ground crew, those of us in the ground crew, never had a briefing. The officers and pilots were all officers. They'd always get the briefing with the flip charts and all that. Nobody ever talked to us until he took over. Suddenly, they briefed the officers, they come down to the crew room with the flip charts, all of them, and we'd get a full briefing too. But you can imagine what that did for morale. Now we're a part of something, and an important part. That's the way we felt. In one of these briefings, the last thing he said was, gentlemen, when that bell rings, the alert is called, your job is to get to your airplane as fast as you can using any means possible. And just then the bell went, and everybody was scrambling, running out. And I'm out to the captain's tarmac, and I saw something that reminded me of his last words, using any means possible. There was his staff car sitting there running. And what was I to do? I had to obey orders. So I jumped in and away I went down the throw. Running down the flight line with a flag flying, command flag, and pretty cool stuff. So everybody does a double take that has a chance to see it. And I pull up to where I'm supposed to go, and they all do a double take. My buddy said, what the hell are you doing? I said, the old man moved me his car and get here. We're at war. So anyways, after we got the airplane out, I went back. I said to my pal, come on, I'll give you a ride. He said, screw you. By the time you get his car back, the old man will have you in a leg iron. So I drive back very slowly, and I'm contemplating, now what have I done? And I'm thinking, and this is not the first time I had this particular thought in 5 years, how the hell am I going to get out of this? So I drove very slowly, I got out, they all come out, I salute. I know the CO was smiling, I had a small smile, so did the wing commander. But the squad leader behind him was grinning from ear to ear and giving me a thumbs up, so I figured I was in good shape. So I have one more little story I want to tell about this man's leadership style. Because he certainly impressed me. Excuse me. We had a sergeant that was working night shift, and his buddy used to phone him up periodically and pretend he was the CO. And this night, CO did phone to inquire about an incoming flight from Trenton, and the sergeant said, F you, and hung up. Well, within minutes, the station warrant officer was dispatched from his home, probably still in the pajamas, to see this guy and tell him to be at the CO's office first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock, dress blues. So the poor guy, in despair, I'm sure he didn't sleep all night, he's married, he got kids, because he knew tomorrow he wasn't going to be a sergeant anymore. He shows up, CO comes in, doesn't acknowledge him, goes into his office. He's in and out all day, never once acknowledged the sergeant standing there, snapping to attention. Goes for lunch, comes back. Poor guy's still standing there, dog tired. 4:30, he leaves for home, finished for the day. The CO walks out, goes a few steps, stops, turns, and says, F you too, Sergeant. And leaves. And that was it. The guy wasn't charged, there was no career damage, but that was his style. He'd rather fix than destroy. And I have a lot of respect for that man. Anyway, that's kind of a nutshell version of my Air Force career, such as it was. But I gotta cover a couple of things here, which I'm getting ahead of myself, because it happens to be in this time frame. But did you know that the Royal Canadian Air Force was the first Air Force in the world, and the only Air Force in the world for a while, to have jet transports. Maybe you know that? They had two columns. They got in 52, I think it was, and they operated until 63. That was the time when we built our own airplanes too. And we were building the CF-100, which was considered to be the best all-weather fighter interceptor in NATO. And then, of course, you know the sad story of the Avro Arrow. Another sad part of our country's legacy. Decades ahead of anything known in technology and design, the first time a new aircraft, a new engine, and a new weapon system were developed simultaneously. First time. Once again, in '59, it was ordered to stop, with all aircraft to be destroyed. Imagine that. With only the nose tags remaining to be replaced by bomb-arc missiles. What a bloody shame. The Comet was built in the UK, and it was the first, the UK was the first country to build a jet-powered transport in the world. The second country to build a jet-powered transport in the world was Canada, when AVO built the C-102 jetliner. The concept was born in 1945 and continued through the development after many design changes and delays. The first prototype of the jetliner flew in August 1949, just 13 days after the Comet, making the jetliner the #2 jet power in the world. In 1950, the jetliner carried the first airmail between Toronto and New York in 58 minutes. This flight was highly publicized, and the crew was welcomed with a ticker-tape parade through Manhattan. Many design changes were made by and for TCA. By 1948, the new president of TCA, Gordon McGregor, stated that he did not want to be the first airline with a jet. Now that's forward thinking, isn't it? There was a huge interest in the jetliner worldwide. Howard Hughes made arrangements with Avro to fly it to California. He was so impressed with it, he offered to build it under license in the USA, and he planned to supply 16 of them to TWA, Trans World Airlines, his airline. The aircraft was scheduled to begin deliveries in May 1952, years ahead of the Boeing 707 or Boeing 727. In 1951, however, the federal government ordered the program stopped due to the 700 being the priority. In 1956, the jetliner was ordered grounded, never to fly again. Canada's sad legacy in aviation development and historic preservation continues when the remaining aircraft was offered to the National Research Council. They did not have room for it, so they cut off the nose and cockpit, which is all that remains today. The rest was cut up and scrapped. All too familiar, isn't it? It seems that we don't like success in our country, especially our own, because we sure blew the industry away on that. So I urge all those entrusted with the preservation of our civilian aviation history not to make the same mistakes going forward. When you're offered artifacts, take it, even if you have to put it under a tarp in the yard. Better than going to the scrap yard or leaving the country. Like that beautiful history, so much is left of our country or gone to the scrap yard because of lack of interest, such as the Strand Air, which I remember being in Vancouver when I worked there. Now at Hendon Air Force Museum in the UK, masquerading as an RAF aircraft. And it spent its whole life here on the BC coast. And served with the RTF, not the RAF, and the Queen Charlotte Airlines after that. Anyways, I digress. My 5 years was up in the Air Force, and I had time to make another decision. And I decided to go get out, and believe it or not, I was honorably released.
What can it be for?
So I got back home after being away 5 years, and now 22 years old. And it was great to be home. And I thought it was amazing was how much smarter my dad had become in that time. Funny how that works, isn't it? I was actually in the back seat of that when that picture was taken. Grandpa used to get a chance to fly in the back quite often. On the Blue Arrow, world class. And there's the jetliner. What a shame. Group Captain Sells, finest officer ever served under. May you rest in peace, sir. Honorably released. What was that?
Oh, I got proof.
Then I went to work for a living. God, can you imagine that? What logging. The only good thing about that, after I finished with that, was the first time in my life I was ever pear-shaped the right way. Just about got killed there, and I read about that in the book. And how my dad got me a job as a pilot boats in Victoria. And that was kind of special because my grandfather and great-grandfather were both pilots, ship pilots, and they worked out of that same station, not on the same boats. And they used to take the pilots up and meet the ships and pick them up and so on. So it was an interesting job. Then I got on the Naval Auxiliary. I won't bore you with too much stuff here, except I do write about it. There's a few good stories in there about the time that we caused the Navy to pull the beaches of Washington. I forget the town or whatever. Anyways, to shock the hell out of them because the live fire was coming at them because the Navy had moved over because we were in the middle, heading to sea. That's the whole story. I don't waste your time with that. But anyways, that was in there. That caused an international incident and a court martial. And the time we almost sent the submarine off Cape Flattery, trying to go alongside. And of course, that's how going alongside an iceberg, right? More under the water than on top. Column Bay, Washington is where we. But during this time, I also joined the Royal Canadian Navy Reserve. I didn't do a lot with that, but I was proud to be able to say that I wore the uniform of two of our services, our Air Force and Navy. During the time, also, I got a private pilot's license. It cost me $350. The government gives me back $100, so it cost me $250. Not a lot more than that today. How are you doing for time, Rick?
Doing good.
I think you're almost done.
Slide.
Push your slide in.
Lorne, slide.
Oh, yeah. Navy. That guy's name, I'll get to him shortly, but that's Bob Langdon, one of the legendary pilots and airline operators on the coast, who gave me my start in aviation. Anyway, after a couple of years of this, got your pain in the ass.
That's what I'm paid for.
Anyways, I went to school in Vancouver. My buddy was getting out of the Navy, and he needed some high school credits because he wanted to go to university and become a forester, which he did. So I said, oh, I should go over there too. And I liked the name of the school because it was Sherpass. The name of it was Sherpass College. And I believe that all I had to really do was show up and they would give me my stuff, but that wasn't the way it worked. I had to work, and it was hard work. And I often thought I was wasting my time and money, but I probably wasn't. I was running out of money, so I got a job as a Pinkerton security guard controlling the traffic at the White Spot Broadway and Arch. It's still there, I think. But on Christmas break of Easter week, I went home to my parents' place in Camp River, and I needed a job to make some money, so I went down to see Bob Langdon, Island Airlines. He hired me as a dock boy. Well, I loved it. I loved the job, I loved the people. It was that working with a bunch of people with like-minded, close, bonded people, and it's hard to explain, but it was very appealing and something I liked and wanted to be part of it. So when I left at Easter, Bob said to me, "What are you going to do when you finish that stupid school?" That's what he said. I had a degree. I said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, if you want to come back here, I'll give you $200 a month, plus all your flying time, to get your license, and you're any good. I might even hire you as a pilot." Wow, I just won the lotto. That was my entry into aviation, and I knew then exactly what I was going to do and what I wanted to do. Although I had worked with aircraft and pilots in the Air Force, pilots were all officers. And I knew I didn't have the education that could ever qualify to be an officer. So why did I think about becoming a pilot? I didn't, till now. First of all, I got a float endorsement. I started full-time as a dock boy with seasoned pilots going out with when there's a seat available on the leg. I fly the empty leg. And of course, you're learning stuff from these seasoned guys that is priceless. Sure enough, I got my time in, I got my commercial license. And to his word, he hired me, and now I was no longer the dock boy. I was a junior pilot on the base. That was pretty special. That was the base. Camp River in those days was considered to be the busiest seaplane base in the world. And I think it really was. It was our base, our hangar. Find the 180, the cover photo. The BC coast was, and I'm sure it still is, the most treacherous place to fly, and no place for novices. Yet all of us were novices starting out. Learning curve was steep, and there was usually 1 or 2 fatal accidents every year, usually as a result of bad weather and lack of experience. Learning the ropes of Island Airlines, flying with the seasoned pilots of the company was the very best apprenticeship possible. Pilots like Russ Lanker, Bob Savage, Ed Paul, Frank Roberts, and so many more. All were happy to impart their experience, knowledge, and wisdom. They did this with such generosity as if it was their mission, to ensure all of us new pilots could learn all we could to keep us safe and alive. The willingness of pilots to pass on their own experience, and equally the willingness to seek that from others, is, I believe, unique to this industry, as I'm sure it is with any other close-knit bonded group with a common purpose. We soon accept soon enough the need to learn from mistakes made by others, knowing that we've not lived long enough to make them all ourselves. Learning the coast and how to read the water to determine what type of aircraft can safely land there, whether it be 172, 180 would be, or whether it's safe to land at all. We learned to do that with fairly good accuracy from a height altitude. So starting out, of course, on the 172 on floats, graduated to 180 on floats, it was like going from a sedan to a sports car. But getting qualified on the iconic Beaver was a thrill and a pure feeling of success. With limited experience, the rule of thumb was if you didn't stick at the dock when you're loading it, it would fly. And you don't come to your boat. The only thing you had to be careful was loading it in salt water, landing in a lake. Different buoyancy, you might sink. Now, As you all know, anybody that's flown, occasionally you get somebody on your flight that's an iconic, legendary figure. And of course, you're going to get them to sign your logbook. You take pictures with them if you can. And one day, I had a flight. I had to go pick up some people off a yacht north of London. 2 beavers. I was in there first. Bob Nels came in the second beaver after me. My passengers were President of Chrysler, President of Simpson Logging in Washington, President of Boeing Corporation, Bill Allen, and Biggie, Juan Tripp, founder and president of Pan American World Airways, a real legendary figure. He sat in the right seat, so he was effectively my co-pilot on the way up to the interior for trout fishing. I spent the whole day with these guys. Never thought to get there, sign my logbook, take a picture with them. Dumb, young and dumb. But anyways, I can't prove it, but that's a true story. And I thought it was fun I could have had with that. How long have you been flying? Well, summer. When I started flying, Lorne Tripp was my co-pilot. That's a picture, right? But I didn't get that picture, so I can't say that. So that was a mistake. As my mother used to say, youth is wasted on the young. It was wasted that day. We also had a Husky. I don't know if you ever know the Husky, Fairchild Husky. Very ugly airplane. But a nice airplane to fly, except it was grossly underpowered. So when we had a big load on it, it had a cabin like an otter, but an engine, the same engine as a Beaver. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I got my uniform and I was a pilot. Last week I couldn't spell pilot, now I are one. That was a proud day for me. I was looking just like those officers. I used to strap in the airplane. Same uniform, same style, same color even. Nobody's going to salute me, at least not the full hand version. Probably the one finger version maybe. But I was pretty proud of myself that day. My dad was proud of me because I had caused him, that was important to me because I had caused him quite a bit of angst when I was young. My mother was proud, but she wasn't been proud of it as a bank robber. She would have thought I was thinking out of the box and looking after my financial security. Good for yourself. But that's what mothers are like, huh? One beautiful day, that airplane had a new pilot show up, and a chief pilot was checking him out on the Husky. And Saturday afternoon, gorgeous day right in front of Campbell River. Many people saw it. It was demonstrating a stall recovery. It was too low. I didn't make it. And they both died in the crash. Rest in peace. Sadly, flying is not Nintendo. You don't push a button and start over again. So by now, I had my commercial license, some experience, float endorsement, and I moved on to Starlong flight in Vancouver. They were going to check me out to fly the Super Widget. But I needed a multi-engine rating, so they gave me that. And shortly after, I got a chance to fly for Phil Larkin, National Highways, flying Phil. So I couldn't turn that down. He even interviewed me. And he was affectionately known by us as the Roman road builder. Joining the department, John Latta here, him and I were there together, was at a time when BC politics was anything but dull. The Honorable Phil Bellard, who was the most colorful minister in government, and it was he who actually interviewed me. And I took away from the interview that what was really important to him was tight lips and loyalty. Okay, no problem, we can do that. My first job was fly the beaver with a camera, just for the summer. I got up there with the, I took a beaver up there, and I got a top secret mission. To pick up passenger in Kinscan Lake, or Kinbasket Lake, I forget, I got two of them mixed up. Kinbasket Lake up at the dam, make a dam. I was scheduled to pick up late in the day, and I arrived back at Calvert's in the evening after 1 hour. Turns out, I got up there, and the passenger was a baby moose. He was legs were bound, he was tranquilized, and he got a little agitated. And I thought, Jesus, hope he started acting up when I took off. I hope he didn't get out of the ties or we're in trouble. So I went to 10,000 feet thinking I might put him to speak. It works with passengers, didn't work with the moose. So he started crashing around a bit. So I come down and I better get close to the water. I have to land there, right? We'll land in a lake somewhere. But then he had diarrhea. And it all went over the cabin floor, down all the heater vents. Jesus Christ. So I got back to Calvert's, and by now I had nicknamed the Moose Oliver. But he was gone. And then the engineer and I had to rip the floor apart, clean up all that stuff. Anyway, that was that first trip. Uneventful, you might say. Well, it wasn't, but it was eventful. And I had a great summer, going all over BC, places I've never been before, up in the Yukon even, with this beaver. But then I had to go to Smithers to do some work for forestry. We had 2 photo aircraft up there, and it was July 1st, there was a parade. I couldn't get to where I was going because of weather. Coming back, I thought I'd give him a hand and get the parade off the ground a bit. Well, like an ass, I made 2 passes instead of 1, and they had me. And when I tied up at the lake, back to the hotel, and an hour or 2 later, knock on the door, Monty, you find the beaver? Said, yeah. Give me a ticket. I have to go to court. Holy shit. So I thought, well, I'm out of a job now. I was going back to campus the next day. And I told the dispatcher guy I worked with, he said, you better call the old man, because I know from experience, the guy that gets to him first wins. So I got called into the radio. He was car 1, of course. To get a message to the car 1. That's there all day. He phoned Friday at 6 o'clock at night. So I introduced myself. Yes. No, he said, I don't know if you read the paper, sir, but I've been charged to fly below 1,000 feet over a built-up area. That's the way the charge read. Well, he says, how are you? And I go, maybe 900 feet, I slowed it down. I didn't say that. Don't you, he said, who charged you? I said, I said, some young punk trying to make a name for himself. Don't you worry about him trying to get me to you. I knew that I was safe. Yes, sir, I read you right. Says, I said, I pleaded not guilty. Sorry, I thought you would want me to do that. Yes, but he said, have you got a lawyer? I said, yes. Is he any good? And I said, no, he's the only one in town. He said, don't worry about it, I'll check it as soon as I get to Victoria Monday. Anyway, long story short, I went to court. That said, what's the maximum penalty to the prosecutors? What's the maximum penalty under the Aeronautics Act? And the prosecutor said, I think it's $500, sir. Actually, it was 5,000. He really buggered up. He said, I think it's 500. $250. That was it, cut it in half. I ran into Clyde in the airport. He says, "They really sucked the tree up there." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Go see so-and-so and give it to Joey, you put it in expense account." So I had a lot of time for Phil. Good man. He was a colorful guy, and very demanding. But when he talked about loyalty, he did return loyalty tenfold, always. Okay, folks, let's carry on there. There's a bit more of this section to get through. Try to cut some of it out. When I finished the summer with the Beaver, it was time to come back down to Victoria to join the Executive Flight Division, which consisted of Beach 18 and that Tailwinds Beach 18 out in front of the hangar, which I used to fly. It was built right in the hangar in BCAM. But I needed an instrument rating. So they trained me and gave me an instrument rating. So now I had almost everything. And all it's cost me so far is $250. However, I really needed my ATR, the coveted green stripe license. And it was going to take me 25 hours at night time to pilot the ground. That was going to take a while, so I mentioned this to the chief pilot, this dilemma. He said, "Oh, no problem. Take one of the beaches up every night for a week, fly around, and you'll have 25 hours in no time at all." So I did. Imagine that, you get given a Beach 18 with fuel, just go play with. Wonderful. So if there's any taxpayers here from those eras, I just want to thank you. The money was well spent. Anyways, I got my ATR and the whole works. But now for the next summer, I went on aerial survey photo with forestry. And I gotta admit, I hated that job. Struggled to get the Beach 18 up to 20,000 feet. Sit there for 7 hours on flying a line. And the navigator stretched out in a plexiglass nose section, giving me heading instructions. Right 1 degree, get real. Okay, right 5, oh, I can do that. Left 4, I can do that too. You get this 1 degree. So I didn't like that job. So after that summer was over, I was back in the left seat of the Executive Flight Division, flying all over BC, all of us were, Beach 18s, IFR day and night, and lots of stories I made about there. But when I think about it, I think, geez, we've got to be crazy. We're flying along, say, broken cloud, and all of a sudden there's a granite face right there. Get easy to touch it. Immediately check the altimeter, 11,000 feet MEA. Altimeter setting was correct. And you knew you were not damn close. But who ever knew about temperature correction? I didn't. We're probably a lot closer than we looked. Anyways, when I look back on it, that was pretty good. Anyways, John Lott and I were talking earlier, reminded me of a flight I did. Me and Carl Eisenhower. I had to take a municipal affairs to Cranbrook. But on the way, we had to drop somebody off in Vancouver. And this is where I learned to take a westbound climb to get out of the ice. I took off Vancouver, climbed up, turned left towards the mountains, got up to the Southern Airways out of the valley, got up to minimum altitude, I think it was 11,000 feet, and the airplane we were so badly iced out. And it was winter time, and for another 3 days it was below zero on the ground here. And we stalled. I knew the valley was to the left, the car called the ATC. I pushed the nose over and pushed the airplane into the valley. It stopped at 6,000 feet. as we could stay flying, come back to Victoria. And as John recalls, the ice was loaded with ice, the airplane was loaded with ice still. When we taxied in, the minister got out of the airplane, and he had a few pots before he got on. So he slept the whole way through. He missed the ride of his life, sleeping the whole goddamn day. We had him, he thought we were in Cranbrook. Sorry, we'll try that again tomorrow. One of the many little instances that we had, but it was one day I was flying back, and kind of interesting for me. The back of the airplane is right in the bulkhead behind the captain's seat, and I was flying back. I had noticed it, I didn't know how to read it. And just I turned around and looked at it, and I said, my God, that's 1404. That's the same BCAM I crewed on for a while I was the Clare Zone, when a couple of headquarters officers were going out for a party. Yeah, so I was pretty proud of myself. No, I was flying a bloody thing. Anyways, towards the end, politics got pretty heated. And we all had a front row seat in this, and I write about this, and how the political tables turned, the winds of change were blowing. Larry's daughter-in-law getting a ride to Dallas on the Learjet company jet. And Larry specifically told the chief pilot, no, drop her off in Seattle, she'll catch a commercial flight. But they were late getting in there, so she missed that flight, so they took her to Dallas. Well, in the meantime, the opposition had the government on the ropes over dodgy land deals and different things that were going on at the time. And they were getting close to bringing the government down. So I don't know if somebody tipped them off. Some people thought the premier did, but about the flight to Dallas, because the media was down there when they landed, taking pictures. Front page headlines the next day, gliding grounded, it said. So when the opposition jumped on that in the House and started drilling about it, he stood up and quit. But once he quit as Minister of Highways, he couldn't answer any more questions on the highways file. So he had, I don't know if he wanted to quit or he was told to quit, but it was a humiliating defeat for him, but saved the government another 4 years anyway. So right after that, my friend Danny and I left to another job. Anyways, I could go on at length on the Gallardi saga, but I think I've said enough about that. It was a good time, I enjoyed it, and I had a lot of respect for him. Now, just about that time, my friend Danny got a call from a friend of his in Calgary, offering him a job as a first officer on a F-27. He phoned me to rub it in. I said, yeah, right. So, 5 minutes later, he phoned me back. He says, they just phoned me back. They need another guy. Do you want to go? And I said, count me in. I'm in. So we give her a quick notice, apologized, and left her on. I got canceled the flight the next day to Calgary, where we met the owners. They gave us some expense money. And the guy we were going to be flying with, the captain, we were going to FOs. This guy was the captain. We went to Toronto, Pittsburgh for ground school and simulator, Washington, D.C. for flight training. You remember the Watts riots, some of you will remember that. They had the same thing happening in Washington about the same time. So it was a pretty eerie place to be. And I read about that too. It was not a very pleasant time. And we were very glad to be Canadians and glad to be back to Canada. So after the training, Ed Colic and I went back down to Pittsburgh, picked up the airplane, flew it to Calgary. And this would be just before it made its first revenue flight and its last revenue flight. We had anatomy of a crash. Before I talk about our final tragic flight, I want to explain a few things about those times in aviation. As in all accidents, it's never caused by just one thing. It's always several things coming together that creates the circumstances leading to the incident or accident. Although the captain bears final responsibility, he does not deserve 100% of blame. And this was one of those situations. There was enough blame to go around, including with me. Most of the blame, I believe, belonged to the company, senior management, and senior maintenance. And I think you'll see that as I explain it. It's not my intention to slight anyone, but to try to explain that most of the behavior and attitudes exhibited were normal during those times. That is the way it was then. It was normal. The other thing that was missing was CRM. Let me explain that. In the 1970s, a group of NASA researchers were evaluating the performance of airline pilots. They discovered that 70% of all accidents were human caused. That means the dreaded two words, pilot error. In 1979, they developed the idea that crew members needed to take a more team-oriented approach to flying, creating a training program calling it Crew Resource Management. The primary purpose of CRM is to use all resources, including human resources, other crew members, information, and hardware, to mitigate errors and improve safety. This would include 5 topics. The focus would be on 5 topics. Situational awareness, communication skills, teamwork, task allocation, decision making, and CRM only works well when it's combined with a comprehensive SOP, standard operating procedures. Both those things came into being in a very real way in the 1980s, and I remember that very well. And I believe personally that those two things, CRM and written SOPs, were the single biggest change enhancing flight safety that was ever done. It made life a lot safer, and it made life a lot easier for pilots. Didn't have to second guess the other guy all the time. You knew everything was predictable. You knew what your job was, you knew what his job was, and that's what you expected. When crew members utilize the resources available to them, it improves their skills and helps avoid mistakes. This didn't exist in 1968. The crew concept was joint decision making. It was a vague concept at best. Once again, it's not misleading anyone. That's just the way it was. Any of you older staff would probably agree with that. So it comes time for our departure. Calgary was only one serviceable ADF. Aircraft has 2. Regulations require that we operate 2, particularly going north. We were dispatched with 1. The company that let it go with 1 was just as bad. We, the crew, accepted it, which we shouldn't have done. In Resolute Bay in those days, which we were going to end up going to, there was no ILS or its landing system. There was a beacon on each end of the runway, which we called the poor man's ILS. We stopped in Edmonton on the way up. Captain Ernie ran into some friends of his, buddies, and they were talking. We were all standing around. He was talking, and always in the singular, I noticed. I mean mine. Okay. Finally, I tapped him on the arm. I said, "Excuse me, Are you going by yourself or am I going with you? So he introduced me and apologized to me. No problem. We leave there, go to Illinois. Fuel up, check the weather. Forecast winds are higher than they originally were thought to be. And it takes us forever to go from Illinois to the Arctic coast, crossing at Lady Franklin Point, which is a dew line station. I got 2 radar fixes from the dew line station. Calculated our wind to be 100 knot headwind. There's no way we can go to Sharp Bay and have any fuel enough to fuel to go to Resident Bay. And there was no fuel in Sharp Bay anyway. I wanted to go to Cambridge Bay, which is downwind to us and in the clear. This is where CAM comes in, but didn't exist. He said, tune in the beacon at Resident. I did. Unfortunately, it sends. I could identify it and it sent and pointed to it. And that was false reassurance. I had no idea how far out we were. It was going to be a long, long way to go. So that was the plan. Now we were going to Resident Bay. And also, keep in mind that the weather forecast for the entire Arctic was forecast to be clear. After another 2 hours, now we've been in the air for over 4 hours. Another 2 hours, we still haven't been able to talk to Resident Bay. We decided to test the fuel gauges. Big mistake. Fuel gauges went down to 0, 2 red warning lights come on, all fuel lights. We let the switches go, assuming that gauges come back and lights will go up. What we didn't know, and should have known, was it took 650 pounds to put the lights up. We didn't have that. We had about 300 pounds. So now when those lights come on normally, and I think I got this right, I might be wrong with exact numbers. You got 30 minutes left to fly. We were still looking at those lights over an hour later. And now we're talking to Resident Bay and they find out the weather's obscured and eighth of a mile and heavy snow. Nobody's landing or taking off. We can't do an approach because we don't have the equipment to do it. We'd have without it. We don't have an astro compass. We wouldn't know how to operate it anyways because we didn't take, no one gave us an Arctic nav course. Another problem leaving. So we're getting close, we start descending. We call the engineer up to tie the tool boxes down behind us because we might be in trouble here. So I asked her, what are we going to do? He said, we'll cross the beacon, let down over the bay, and hopefully we get visual. So that was the plan. After we cross the beacon, always wait for both engines to quit. We're well over an hour now. I passed the altimeter, we're down to 1,000 feet, and we had been in a 30-degree bank turn at that point. He immediately leveled the wings, stopped the turn, and both engines quit at the same time, with a shatter and a bang, as we slammed into the ground. They didn't quit with fuel starvation, they quit because they separated from the airplane. When we hit, I remember saying a classic comment, which I won't repeat, reaching up, hit the crash bar, which turned off all the electrics. I remember thinking as we careened across the tundra, making a horrible noise, waiting for this to kill us, do whatever it had to do to kill us, because you just don't survive this. And then after a few minutes, seconds or minutes, it seemed to slow, and I remember thinking, maybe the fucker's going to stop. It did. But now, of course, the engineer had thrown over me into my control wheel. His cheek was almost ripped right off. I was plastered up against the windscreen and the side window. And my white shirt was quickly turning red. All the blood coming from my head. Then, as I sat there in shock, silence, and stunned disbelief, then we started thinking, geez, we better get out of here because maybe it's going to catch fire. Maybe it's going to blow up. But then we couldn't, as I say, a good landing is any landing, you can still open the doors. Well, we couldn't open the doors at first. So finally we got a door when we got out, past the engineer up a bit, as best we could. That was the fuselage. I ripped open in 3 or 4 places. That was taken a couple months later after all the salvage and stuff was stripped out of it. I used to have a prop there, but it's not there. Anyways, I walked around the back of the airplane, and 300 yards behind was one of the propellers sticking up like a cross, a point of impact. We came back, when I got out, all the passengers were already out in shock, but they walked out through the open holes in the fuselage. Ernie wasn't hurt at all, except his pride was really damaged. I felt sorry for him. And he felt so bad he was going to walk. He walked back to Resolute Bay, or what? Because we knew it was about 7 miles away. And we tried talking whatever everybody did. There's polar bears around here. I mean, somebody, as soon as the weather picks up, somebody will come looking and find us. And I walked around the tail of the airplane again, and there was a Mountie on a skidoo. He found us, yeah. Amazing. Never so glad to see the police in my life. So that was kind of it, and I know many of you who fly for it will wonder, well, why the hell didn't they do this, why didn't they? There's tons of things that you should have done. And if CRM had been the norm of the day, none of this would have happened. I really believe that. It's, as I say, it was a lot of lessons learned, and it was a tragic situation. It damaged the company beyond repair, actually. And there's other things we could have done, I'm sure. But surviving the crash was directly related to the angle of arrival. Fortunately, our arrival was shallow. Basically, it was an example of not following the 7 Ps. You know what that is. Proper prior planning prevents P poor performance. So, as I say, that was the lessons learned there were many, too many to list. And I'm sure that many of you would wonder what we could have done or should have done. And there's lots of things we should have done, could have done differently, and it would have turned out differently. But I, for one, that was my very first trip in the Arctic. I'd never flown there before, didn't have the Arctic map, of course. Neither did the captain. So the company sent the airplane unequipped and the crew unequipped. And we all accepted it. So that was the story of that, my first trip to the Arctic. Well, Andrew, got any questions about that? I'll try to answer. No question, that's anything better.
Lorne, I flew over that airplane after the fact.
Yeah.
Many years actually. Yeah.
Many years later, I was that distant. I was flying the Electra, and we had the brass. We came from Chile. We had the company president, the head of the Coast Guard, and all the big people. And I said I got a PA, and I said to the passenger, gentlemen, if you look out the right side of the airplane, you'll see remains of an F-27 that crashed there on October the 12th, or June the 12th, 1968. And I paused. That was my last flight in the Resolute.
Good part.
So, after that, I took a job. I won't go into the details of that. But there's stuff written about that. It was a good year I spent there. One point. single engine, single pilot airplane. And all my flying had been Calgary, up to Winnipeg, and Vancouver, as far as ATC centers go. I was down in Los Angeles, never been there before. Leaving Los Angeles by myself at night, going to San Francisco, when the engine quit. Now I got a declared emergency. And the area chart looks like I heard the chickens went through it. And I'm cleared to the VOR, I got to find out. I said, look, I'm unfamiliar, can you give me vectors? Just spoon fed me right onto the runway. Perfect. So that was the baptism of fire. That's all I'll say about that. When they went out of business, I was knocking on GNA's door again. And so I got hired back. And I was going to fly the DC-4 as a first officer and the Twin Otter, the Pan Otter oil contract. So now I get the autograph course and all that stuff. At the DC-4 here. There we were stuck in the mud, actually. We taxied out and loaded onto this runway in the summertime. And I noticed the whole runway was just moving like a bowl of jelly. I had never seen that before. Al Warrior was a captain. He said, shit, the permafrost melted. We're going to break through the crust, and we did. So, that's the next picture. After digging it out, and then it was a real trick getting out of there. There were 45 degrees the runway heading the wrong direction. They told us that put steel sheets under the D8 cap, pull it backwards. And we had to turn 270 degrees to take off, heading the opposite direction. It was over less than half the runway. So I said, look, I don't want to turn the nozzle too steep, too tight, and break through the crust again. We'll try to ease it around, we'll bring the outboard engines in, we'll turn it with that. And when we come to the 20 degrees of lineup, we'll fly full power, and of course we have takeoff flaps set by this point. And that's what we did. And he nursed it off the ground, right up the end of the runway, there's no runway left. Called the gear up, airplane settled, I was sure it was going to settle back onto the ground. But he kept nursing it, kept it there. So we got away with it. The Edison times, and I've got a ton of stories about the DC-4 time up there. And almost running out of fuel at Resolute Bay again. Sudden bad weather and 4 empty fuel tanks. But I won't talk about that now. But it's in the book. And of course, flying the Twin Otter. Twin Otter on skis, flying the Pan Otter Royal. That was a neat job, but lonely at night in the winter time. Pitch black 24 hours. Flying along, you don't see any lights anywhere. Don't hear any friendly voices on the radio. You find yourself taking a little bit of comfort of a warm glow of the instrument lights. And there's no sun, can't take a sunshot. This night there's no moon, could take a moonshot. Jesus, I wish I had paid more attention when they were teaching about taking star shots. Anyways, that was good. Eventually the company went bankrupt. And I'll just touch on this slightly. The Pan Otter people, Gray Alexander was the superintendent, I knew quite well. And he had made arrangements with the receivers that anybody on the Pan Otter contract would get paid. The Pan Otter girls owned the airplanes. They contracted GNA to fly them and maintain them. And we were on 2 week on, 2 week off tours. So it was just before Christmas. I go south, crew change comes up, I go to the hangar. Nobody's there other than what the receivers had hired. I asked for my paycheck. Nobody gets paid. But I got a wife and 2 kids at home. It's 2 weeks before Christmas. I got no money. I go down to the Pan Otter office in Calgary, talk to Gray Alexander. He says, that's not right. He phones the receiver up. Can't get through. Finally gets through. He says, look, we owe you $40,000. Yes, he says, and we want it right now. Oh no, he says, I'm gonna pay this man, and out of that money, and you're gonna have the rest. He said, no, can't do that, we want that money now. He said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pay it, and you can sue us for the rest, quick. Went to accounts, come back with a check for $6,200 for me. So he saved my Christmas for me and the family. So, kudos to Gray Alexander. Anyways, quickly now, I went to, got a job finding BCAM on a weight horse. And that was, I enjoyed that. That was moving the hunting party closer to the Carol herd. And then Al Horry called me and he was looking for pilots because he was lots of man for Arctic Airport Nelson. So, flew for him. So the hockey team out of Fort Nelson that put me on guys, they had one. I had the white horse. They were drinking and having a hell of a good time. So I had to come up and say, look, I can't control these guys. They're out of control. And not to worry. We get clearance to 12,000 feet, which only supposed to go to 10 if you got no oxygen, but we went to 12. Turned the heat up. I said, they'll be sweet. And they were. You know what to say. Anyways, there's lots of stories there, but suffice to say, I heard about Lord Air applying or looking for a job, the pilot, so I sent an application, or told them to send me an application, which they did. And so once I filled it out and sent it in, I really wasn't that interested in moving to Montreal. But once I did that, then I wanted to hear about it. I gave him a week or so to get it. And I phoned the chief pilot. Introduced myself, and told him I had applied. And yet, I could hear him go through the stack. Oh yes, he said, they got it right here. We won't make any decisions till next week. But now my application is on top of the pile. 2 days later, I got a call. When can you start? So Lord Air was the best, other best decision I ever made. Great airline, great people. In 47 years of operation, we only ever lost money 1 year. So I really enjoyed my time there. My first job was going to be an FO on F2B7 on Deer Line. And that was neat. And this is where my Air Force Deer Line time played a bit of a role because I was flying with a bunch of new captains, great guys, and lots of pivoting going on and shots back and forth. And they would like to say, oh, well, you weren't here, you should have been here in the old days. Finally I'd say, well actually I was, I just never got this far south. Or the other one was, well I was, of course I was there when I built the bloody place. So we had a lot of fun. And once a year we did what they called an Arctic Star. Is that right?
Yeah.
The Arctic Star on that airplane, where we would go take it off the Deer Line, go to Colorado Springs, pick up the brass, and then back up the Deer Line, do the inspection tour and do the tour. But we dubbed this flight the trip from hell. And I read extensively about it. Started out leaving Montreal, pressurization wasn't working, thunderstorms everywhere. And long story short, we get that fixed somewhere. We get to Colorado Springs, pick up the brass. And there's a colonel and 20 other different ranks. Some Canadians, mostly American. But the Air Force brass had invited along a general, General Knudsen. They were a great guy. But you could tell by we watched, and you could tell by the body language, the colonel was PO'd about this. He outranked the colonel. But he wasn't there to be in charge of it, he was just going along with the ride. Low oil pressure on the gearbox, we had one engine land in Tacoma. The next day we put oil in it. We take off up the coast as it goes to Juneau, Fairbanks, Point Barrow. The weather was upslope conditions, flat everywhere. It was a decent place to land anywhere. And we should have gone to the interior, gone that way. Anyways, we get south of Sandspit. Red light comes on again, and I shut the engine down. Port Arthur's flat, Rupert's flat, Juneau's flat. I call her. Their radio at Sandspit, he says, the weather come back, pressure rising rapidly. Well, that's good news, because that means the front's moving through, the weather will be better behind us than it was. So we were able to get into Sandspit, and we were there a week. Company wanted us to keep doing what we were doing. John, the captain, said no. Send somebody out to fix this, we're not moving. So we were there a week. Within that week, we all watched the general. Leadership plus again, quietly, effectively, pour the oil in the troubled waters, and had the colonel eaten out of his hand. The colonel was no longer intimidated by the general. It was good, it was nice to see. But it gets worse. You get the thing fixed, we take off on the Juneau, weather is terrible. Fuel up, flight plan, out of Juneau we go. Climb up the fjord in weather. We just get it to minimum in road altitude, we start getting ice. The worst kind of ice, clear ice. And all of a sudden we lost all the nav aids because the antenna's all iced up. Then the rate of climb went from 700 feet a minute, 300 feet a minute, 100 feet a minute, to not climbing at all, to descending. Now we're descending up to 500 feet a minute. And there's nothing we could do, just hang in there. We looked at each other, hopeless situation. I know we're both scrambling to get word into the Almighty or somebody. He said, the little Catholic said, you must have gone through this. I think my lines of communication weren't that good in that direction. But after we had lost quite a bit of altitude, suddenly the engine started healthy again, we were climbing again, and we were in the clear. We were in an inversion. And we were climbing up. And what a relief. But to our horror, there was high ground all around us. All the mountain tops are up there now. So that was an eye-opener. Anyways, we climbed back up, got up to altitude. Weather was better now, we were on top of Broken Cloud. Half an hour later, John's flying. And the lights go on again. It wasn't gearbox at all, something else. Shut down the engine, he saw it, there was a cloud strip right below in a hole in the cloud. He said, I don't know what it is, but we're landing. And we spiraled down and landed. It happened to be Northway, Alaska. We put oil in the thing, called ATC, filed the flight plan again, and took off for Fairbanks. And then next day we went up to Point Barrow for lunch. Anyway, that was the end of that. But they found out eventually the actual problem wasn't the gearbox, it was the prop brake that was leaking. The next year I was promoted to training pilot, tech pilot, focus of air operation plus that. And I was going to fly the C-46. And we had 4 of them at the time. At its peak, we had 14. So when I checked out on the 46, I got the chance. All the senior captains, pilots had thousands of hours on the 46. And they were all very generous with me, telling me all about the airplane, the sequences, the tricks of the trade, etc. So when I checked out on it, I checked out with ease and with confidence, and I was able to master the airplane. And it was a beautiful airplane to fly. The biggest mistake anybody can make going onto it is thinking it's just a big DC-3. Nothing could be farther from the truth. DC-3 is docile and forgiving, and probably the best marriage between airframe and engine ever built. The C-46 requires taming and much respect. It's probably the most unappreciated aircraft, but one of the best. It is the largest twin-engine tail-dragon airplane in the world, with a gross takeoff weight of 48,000 pounds, almost twice that of the DC-3. That was the check pilot salute that the boys developed for us. It's quite an honor, isn't it? That was my favorite. Where's the 46 waiting for a spot to open up the fuel pit? On the ramp in Fifth Avenue? Now where's that fight there? You always thought I was in a bomber during the Second World War. Great fight there. Great airplane. Now, I move from there on to the Lockheed Electra, another one of my very favorite airplanes. And I took the initial training at Eastern Airlines in Miami, Eddie Rickenbacker's airline. Some of you might remember. First flew in 1957, 2 weeks before the 707. And his instructor told us that Miami was the first fully automated airliner, 14 computers built in. Auto temperature control, we couldn't overtake the engine. Auto bus transfer, we had four generators, 3 buses. One generator was a spare all the time. If you lost an engine or a generator, it was just automatically transferred. And much, much more. State-of-the-art safety features, E-handle, which I'll show you. How hard it worked there. On patrol. Love that picture. There was 4 E-handles there. And all other models, airplanes, prior to this, would all do the same thing. Shuts down the engine, feathers the prop, cuts off fuel oil, fires electronic fire extinguishers, fires the CVT valve in the engine. In all previous systems, it took 10 seconds to do those things. On the Electra, it took 1 second. All those things were done in 1 second. Just a beautiful airplane. Unfortunately, like the Comet, it had a design defect that caused the wings to fall off. And that killed the marketing on that airplane, unfortunately. So my job, we had 3 of them, but 2 of them were ice control. My very favorite job. In 1977, this airplane was parked at the ramp below the tower and was cut in half. The only good thing about that was by hitting the Electra, it actually saved 10 or so lives in the Argus, because it stopped the turn, flattened it out, and went in tail first. And the firefighters practicing nearby, they just turned the hose. So it was a tragic thing, and there was three lost life in there. My new CPR uniform. I was very proud that when CPA bought us out, I was very proud to be part of that historic and prestigious airline, and particularly proud to be able to use the iconic call sign Empress in all my flights. I love that. This is later, after a thunderstorm. Now when they bought us out, they were in the process of changing the name back to Canadian Pacific and a new livery. And then short-lived, a year later, visited Western CPM, and we became Canadian Airlines, still a great airline. And they used that livery as the basis for the new Canadian livery, keeping the 5 bars on the tail. Each bar represents a continent that we flew to. South America, North America, South America, Asia, South Pacific, and Europe. And to my retirement, it comes up pretty quick, there it is right there. The last flight was Los Angeles to Vancouver. Royal Airlines, I went to work for Royal Airlines. Santa 3000. Then I went back to, or started with the training department of Air Canada. And then racing on the Cape here in North England. From the Arctic States, you might see. Biggest windmill weather vane in the world.
Did you land that one there too, Lou?
That's the same airplane that took us, flew us from President Bay to Bellhaven after the crash.
Oh, okay.
I can't say I ever flew that, I wish I could. Have we got time for any trivia, or am I finished? I must say it's really. The last captain on that was a fellow named Bill Bromley. And when I was on the Navy tugs in the Skyhawk, Bill was the meat. And I wish I had had enough knowledge and interest to ask him about this stuff. Wish he was alive and I'd ask him now. I didn't, never done. Recovered the green stripe license. I remember when I said the airplane was out of service for a couple of years after the Argus crash. I had enough sea time to qualify for a mate's ticket. And I always wanted to really do that just to pay tribute to my family heritage. So when I had enough time saved up, holidays, etc., and I get 6 months off, I raised with promotion college to go to the Marine Training School, which was one of the best in the country at the time. 6 months. And I got my mate's ticket. I was very, very proud of that. I'm very proud to add my name to the family list of licensed mariners. To the point my ego demanded that, as I was an active member of the Canadian Airline Pilots Association, I decided also to join the Canadian Merchant Service Guild, the Marine Officers equivalent. For a dumb kid from Canberra, I had a pretty good ride.